Sonic the Hedgehog has always been a series that chases trends. The whole reason the first game was created was so Sega could have a mascot platformer that could compete against Mario. Similarly, in the late 90s, Sonic made his big jump into 3D with Sonic Adventure because that was the hip thing at the time. I'm not knocking the series for doing this. It makes sense, especially since these games are basically a business. You want to appeal to what consumers are currently interested in. In fact, many of my favorite games take direct inspiration from what's currently popular. With that being said, there are some trends that aren't worth going after. In the 2000s, games that were more mature were all the rage. Everyone was playing Halo, or GTA, or Metal Gear Solid. It was a new era, where more games are made for adult audiences than ever before. This even rubbed off on some platformer series. Take Jak and Daxter for example. The first game is a standard collectathon 3D platformer, but then the sequel gave Jak guns, got a teen rating due to swearing, and had a much darker story.
I'm gonna kill Praxis!
Jak 2 sold well and was praised by critics. I imagine someone at Sonic Team looked at it and said, hey, why don't we do that? You combine the core Sonic fans with an older audience, and boom, you got a smash hit on your hands. And we can make Shadow the main character, since everyone likes him, and he's already an anti-hero. That brings us to 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog, a game that is shocking. I mean, just look at it. Shadow goes around shooting at people with guns and says a lot of curse words. When you hear that description, doesn't it sound like a parody? I can't think of anything that's farther away from what the Sonic series is about than this.
I'm going to destroy this damn planet. Oh no!
Even when you look past the stupid premise, most people consider Shadow of 5 a frustrating mess that's a chore to play and horrendous to complete. I've always known about its poor reception. This is one of the only 3D Sonic games I didn't play as a kid. I remember one day I was at a game store with my mom, and I actually saw Shadow of 5 for $20. I thought about getting it, but I usually try not to play games I think I'll dislike, so I left it on the shelf. It wasn't until I was 19 when I finally played the game, and I didn't care for it. However, now we're in the year 2025, meaning this is the game's 20th anniversary. Yeah, Shadow the Hedgehog is officially retro now. Heck, it's old enough to vote. As time has passed, people who grew up with this game when they were kids have gotten older and started defending it online. So I was curious to replay Shadow of 5 and see if maybe there was something I missed 6 years ago. But after beating the game, I'm sorry to say that it's still terrible. If anything, I think it's even worse now. I hope you're ready for Shadow the Hedgehog.
Looks like the party's getting started. Time to rock and roll!
The intro cutscene does a pretty good job at setting the tone. We witness an alien invasion in a city and see Shadow fighting the extraterrestrials and the gun soldiers. Meanwhile, the Crush 40 song I'm All of Me plays, and it gives the whole cutscene a very serious tone. The animation in the scene is legitimately great, and it is cool watching Shadow on a motorcycle and using chaos control. But as soon as I saw Shadow firing a gun, I just burst out into laughter. This premise is very dumb, and I cannot believe they made a whole game out of it. What have I gotten myself into? Okay, I'm ready to start the game now. Huh. I guess this is the review that kills me. Good. During the development of Adventure 2, Sonic Team planned on having branching paths the player would choose that would change the story and gameplay. This would be dropped from that game, but it was brought back for Shadow. The way it works is in every level you have different missions you can complete. Dark missions where you align with the main antagonist Black Doom, hero missions where you side with characters like Sonic and Tails, and neutral missions where Shadow ignores everyone and goes his own way. Most of these levels end with you getting one of the Chaos Emeralds, so Shadow's all of them when he completes a playthrough. Which mission you choose affects your trajectory in the story by sending you to different levels and boss fights. For example, if you beat the hero mission of Circus Park, you get sent downwards on the path, and you'll wind up in Death Ruins. But if you complete the neutral mission of the stage, that'll take you forward to Mad Matrix. Eventually you'll reach 5 final levels that each have 2 missions to complete and a final boss. This makes for a total of 10 different endings, so you get to decide who Shadow becomes. You can make him a hero who defeats Black Doom, a monster who turns against humanity, or something else entirely. To truly complete the game you need to obtain all 10 endings, so that's what I set out to do. And I want you to experience it with me. That's why this video is going to be a bit different. I'm going to describe my first 5 playthroughs of Shadow the Hedgehog with you, and this discussion will include all the usual gameplay and story analysis you've come to expect. I hope by the end of this, you can share the pain I felt playing this game. The first playthrough is what I call the neutral hero run. Shadow the Hedgehog always begins with this cutscene where we're told it's the 50-year return of the Black Comet. Shadow meanwhile has no memory of anything from his past except Maria's death. Suddenly a group of aliens called the Black Arms invade Earth, and their leader Black Doom tells Shadow to bring him the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Shadow doesn't know if he should trust Black Doom or not, but decides to find all the emeralds to discover who he really is. This cutscene makes Team Dark's story from the last game so much worse. Why didn't Rouge tell Shadow his backstory? She knows almost everything about him. It's such lazy writing that was probably done because they already had this game in mind. In this route, I'm going to be completing the neutral missions, where the objective is to reach the goal ring. We begin with the level Westopolis. One of the first things you'll notice as you start playing is Shadow controls like garbage. It's even worse than in Heroes. He's really slippery at top speed. I'm constantly jumping to have better control of myself. Typically, you'd expect a sequel to fix problems, not make them worse. Westopolis introduces us to the new combat. Littered throughout the levels are guns Shadow can pick up and use to defeat enemies. You're highly encouraged to fight this way because the enemies still have health bars and your homing attacks aren't very strong. There is a melee option on the ground too, but it's even less effective. Okay, so I think Shadow using guns is a dumb idea because it's cringy and he was naturally strong on his own before. Oh, and one more small thing. Maria was literally shot in front of him. You'd expect him to hate guns. In spite of all that, I have to admit this is the best mechanic in the game. Most guns quickly take care of the enemies, you can get a lot of ammo, and there's decent variety in the weapons. Not all of them are even guns, like you can use swords for example. And you don't have to aim your weapons. Most of them automatically lock onto the enemy, which was a good idea. At times the combat in Shadow can actually be pretty fun. It's stupid, and yet it works well. I'm not a big fan of Westopolis itself though, because the level is really flat and packed to the brim with enemies and explosions like a Michael Bay movie. Our reward for reaching the goal ring is a cutscene where we meet a new character, the Gun Commander. He orders the army to kill Shadow, and we learn that he has a grudge against Edgy the Hedgy. We cut back to Shadow ignoring Black Doom, who teleports him to the next stage Glyphic Canyon as punishment. This level is just as dull as Westopolis. They do attempt to have fun set pieces with you getting sucked up into these tornadoes, but all I could think about was how much more exciting this was when it happened in SA1. Here was when I discovered one of the most annoying mechanics in Shadow of 5. I selected the neutral mission, but repeatedly throughout the level, Knuckles and Black Doom kept returning to nag me that I should help them out. The only way to get rid of them is to repeatedly pause the game to reselect the neutral mission. The alternative is to constantly listen to them complain.
Where are you going?
How many of these monsters are there?
Both are annoying choices, and I can't believe no one realized this was a problem during playtesting. It completely breaks the flow when I'm pausing or getting ticked off. Next is this hilarious cutscene reintroducing the President character from SA2. It turns out he has a picture of Sonic and Shadow together on his desk in the White House. Why does he have this? It is so funny to me. Shadow returns to Prison Island from Adventure 2, which somehow survived getting blown up. The most notable thing about this stage is it has the first vehicle I used. Vehicles are a gimmick in this game that help you traverse the level, but most of them are underwhelming. You're usually just faster on foot, so most of them are pointless. Other than that, the hero companion in this level is Charmy, and wow, he is incredibly annoying. Shadow of 5 is the first game to have a new voice cast. The new actors all come from the show Sonic X, and most of them are pretty bad, except for Mike Pollock as Eggman and Jason Griffith as Sonic and Shadow. I think the other actors get better over time, but we'll see. Back to the stage, Charmy made this level not fun at all. Thankfully I remembered I can get to the goal ring a bit faster. You see, Shadow has 2 meters you can fill up by defeating enemies. If you beat enough foes associated with the Dark mission, you can use Chaos Blast, that's a screen nuke attack. And if you defeat evil enemies like the Black Arms, you unlock Chaos Control, where you can temporarily zoom through the level, which is very helpful for reaching the goal ring faster. I don't think Chaos Blast is that great, but the benefits about having a full meter are you're invincible, have unlimited ammo, and can prolong the transformation by defeating enemies in this state. Overall, it's a good system. After beating the stage, Dr. Eggman is introduced for the first time in a cool looking FMV. Then we see Shadow is suddenly allied with Black Doom. Wait, what? I've been ignoring this guy for half of the playthrough. Last time I talked to him, he was upset with me. This makes no sense. You see, that's the thing about this game. The cutscenes before every level are always the exact same, even when the context doesn't fit. This makes for a very incoherent narrative for most pathways through the game. We're at Sky Troops now, and man, the writing is awful here.
This blue sky, staring at it from afar. Have I seen it before?
What?
You're telling me Shadow doesn't remember a blue sky? I don't. That has to be a mistranslation, right? That's absurd. He was literally just in Sonic Heroes. To make matters worse, the level is super similar to Glyphic Canyon that I just played 8 minutes ago. I guess you can consider it an Act 2 of that stage, but it feels more like a copy-paste to me. And man, the level design in this game is very boring when you're only trying to reach the goal ring. There's not much platforming, and the stages are really bland because they're also designed around the other objectives. Ugh, I don't like any of these levels so far. Okay, let's speed things up. Shadow discovers a bunch of low polygon shadow models that are supposed to be robots created by Eggman. He begins wondering if he's a robot, and Eggman confirms this. Shadow does not take the news well and vows to destroy Eggman. The last stage of the run is Lava Shelter, and I kinda like it. The gameplay is fast-paced, and for the first time, the rail switching mechanic works perfectly. I should point out that the triangle jump from Heroes returns in this game, and it also works well. And thank God, someone fixed the Lightspeed dash. It works correctly again, and they even assigned it to one of the empty face buttons. All of this is very good. The final boss is against Eggman, and he designed this robot with slot machines Shadow can activate for some reason. He goes down, and Shadow is all the Chaos Hormones at last. He accepts that he's a robot, and decides to rule over Eggman's empire before karate chopping the Doctor to death.
Goodbye, Doctor.
And that's it. That was the Neutral Hero playthrough. What did I just play? Everything that was set up in the beginning, like Black Doom and the President, were completely dropped. The story only came together in the last 2 missions, and you get this unsatisfying ending where Shadow is an anti-hero robot now. It's nonsense. Oh my god, I'm only 10% done. I still have to do this 9 more times. Surely things get better from here though, right? This time in Westopolis, I helped Sonic with the hero mission, where you have to defeat all the black arms in the stage. It's similar to the Chaotix levels from Heroes, except there they usually had extra collectibles, so you didn't have to be perfect. In Shadow, most stages don't give you that leeway, meaning it's very common to miss an enemy and have to circle back to a checkpoint to find what you missed. That's what I had to do in Westopolis, and it was not fun. This boring stage took me 7 minutes to beat. And what sucks is defeating X amount of enemies is like 90% of the Hero and Dark missions. They're even worse than the dull neutral playthrough I just finished.
Disgusting black creatures, get out of my sight.
Oh man. Shadow, you should not say that. I thought you were supposed to be a pure hero in this run. We now go down to the level Lethal Highway. I played the hero mission where you need to defeat this tank before it reaches the end of the stage. And I like this level. Continuously firing at the tank was pretty fun, especially at the end where I filled up the hero meter so I had infinite ammo to take it down. I wish more missions in the game were like this. There's a boss fight against this monster called the Black Bull, and after that, it's time for the most infamous scene in Shadow the Hedgehog.
Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald?
Jeez, the cursing in this game is extremely juvenile and forced. I haven't mentioned this yet, but Shadow also curses when he takes damage and dies, and it constantly takes me out because I don't buy this dialogue from these characters.
Damn, not here.
I'm sorry if my criticism annoys you. The core concept of this game just doesn't work for me. The goal of Circus Park is to collect 400 rings, and it's fine. I appreciate how it has some memorable set pieces, such as riding on the zip line. Those are kinda lacking in the rest of the levels. Next up is Death Ruins, and once again, you gotta defeat a bunch of black arms. It's boring. Strangely, we fight the Black Bull afterwards. Didn't I just do that? I've barely mentioned the story in this playthrough because it's mostly been the same as the start of the Neutral Hero campaign. That changes in the last 2 stages. Sonic recruits Shadow to go to the Ark in the spaceship that really bugs me. I guess Tails built it because the front of the ship has the tornado mech from SA2. But why did they place it on the spaceship? It looks terrible and doesn't fit the color scheme at all. Whose idea was this?
A Chaos Emerald? You've got to be kidding me, guys. This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
What on earth? I've been playing the hero mission for every stage so far. Why is Shadow such a jerk? That doesn't reflect my choices at all. And this dialogue is abysmal. You like taking candies from baby Shadow, really? You might as well put a mustache on him to tell the audience he's evil. By the way, this is the same path as where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald. Oh my god, this game is so cringeworthy. Shadow gets a flashback of Maria, and this takes them to a level onboard the Ark called Lost Impact. This is my least favorite stage so far. The goal of the hero mission is you need to defeat all 35 artificial chaos lifeforms. The issue is the stage is massive, and you get no map to help navigate it. And everything looks the exact same, so it's incredibly easy to get lost here. And being lost in a Sonic game, especially a bad Sonic game, really sucks. I would have much rather played Mad Space than this. The only things I liked here are the gun soldiers who shoot at the walls, even after you beat the artificial chaos enemies. That was pretty funny. And I enjoyed the music, although I'm not big on the rest of the soundtrack. It's trying very hard to be edgy, and it doesn't work for me, particularly the vocal tracks. I don't care for any of these. I was surprised by this because I really like dark pop and emo music. Even the main theme, I Am All of Me, has never been a song I liked much. I remember when they played it over Shadow of 5 at the Sonic Symphony show. I actually cringed because I think this game is trying way too hard. Back to Lost Impact, it took me a whopping 22 minutes to find all the artificial chaos enemies. When I was ransacking the Ark looking for them, I was reminded of a quote by the English war poet Siegfried Sassoon. He wrote this after the bloody Battle of Passchendaele in World War I. I died in hell. They called it Lost Impact. Maybe it was something else. I don't know, I can't read. The point is I hated this level. The true hero route ends with another stinker, Final Haunt. It's onboard the Black Comet. This stage is incredibly long, even when you're just going to the goal ring, which is thankfully the objective of the hero mission. And it has these boring flying sections where you ride one of Black Doom's enemies. But I finally made it to the end, and oh, the stage is over. Huh, I accidentally did the Dark mission because I thought you needed to destroy these shields to progress in the level. Well, okay then. I guess this is actually the confused hero playthrough. The ending sees Shadow backstab Sonic at the last minute because he dislikes him, I guess. Sonic and this gun mech are the final boss, and after you beat it, Shadow declares himself the most powerful hedgehog.
This is who I am!
This comes out of nowhere, and it has nothing to do with Shadow remembering Maria, the conflict with the military, or Black Doom's invasion. Despite being a different campaign, the story is still completely incoherent. Hey, at least it's over.
You scum! You're going down!
I played Westopolis for the 3rd time and followed the hero path again until I reached Circus Park, where I completed the neutral mission. We get a cutscene where Shadow hacks into a computer by karate chopping it. I am not kidding. This takes us to Mad Matrix, a stage set in cyberspace that is shockingly bad. The level design has a boring gimmick of hitting switches until they're all the same color, and it takes too long. Then you're supposed to deactivate these terminals for the hero mission, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. I was trying to reach the goal ring. The problem is it wasn't clear which direction to go, because the stage is clearly designed around the other missions. So once again, I got lost in a level, and it took an eternity to beat it. And I hate the visuals here. Everything is so obnoxiously bright that I thought something was wrong with the game. But no, it's supposed to look like this, and this issue isn't limited to Mad Matrix. Like the Chaos Emeralds look horrible. Conversely, you have stages and textures that are way too dark. Shadow the Hedgehog is very ugly looking. Obviously the game is a darker tone, so it shouldn't look like the previous titles. But it should look better than this. Shadow winds up in the level Space Gadget, which looks very similar to Final Rush from Adventure 2. However, the level design has nothing going on, and it just made me wish I was playing that game. This isn't the only stage that reuses Final Rush assets, by the way. The following level does too. Okay, this cutscene is important. After 3 hours, the gun commander reveals why he despises Shadow. He was on board the Ark as a child, and was friends with Maria. One day he saw Professor Gerald create Shadow of Black Doom using the alien's DNA. That's why Gunn was concerned about Project Shadow, and explains their raid on the Ark.
Thanks to you, everyone I knew and loved was killed when the Ark was destroyed. Worst of all, my family!
No. No. This character is literally the commander of Gunn, the organization that actually killed his family. And yet he blames Shadow for the deaths of everyone on board, and not the army that murdered them? What the hell? This has to be the worst character across the entire series. His backstory should give him the exact opposite motivation. How does Dr. Eggman die in 4 endings, yet this guy always survives? He even escapes death when DC gets Independence Day. Christ, a 7-year-old cried a better character in this. I'm so sick of this game. Jeez, man, I'm not even done with the 3rd playthrough yet. The last stage is Cosmic Fall, and it sucks. You have to wait for these platforms to descend in order to progress, and it feels like an eternity. At least the fight against Black Doom at the end is enjoyable, especially when you have infinite ammo and can delete his health bar. The ending has Shadow blame himself for the gun raid, and he wishes he was never born. Like that terrible Fairly Odd Parents episode. It's super depressing with this sad music, but the whole scene is unintentionally hilarious because the comic relief character Vector is here for some reason.
Hey, don't go there! Yet, things may not be what they seem.
I don't think you could pick a worse character to be with Shadow in his darkest moment. It is ridiculous. It'd be like if Big the Cat was chilling in the background when Maria got shot. The scene is incredibly stupid too. Shadow isn't responsible for his own creation, meaning the raid on the Ark isn't his fault. I understand feeling sad about it, but the blame lies with Professor Gerald and the homicidal gun soldiers. This is just poor writing. What an awful playthrough. As I watched the credits roll, I came to realize something about this game. It's much more polished than Sonic Heroes. The mechanics all work as they're intended to. However, the experience is so much worse because at least Heroes was generally fun. Shadow is either boring, cringy, or frustrating. The only times I've actually enjoyed myself were when I was using the guns. Even the speed feels artificial 90% of the time, and you're constantly interrupted by enemies or the bad control. This doesn't work as a Sonic game.
Damn it. What does it all mean?
I played Westopolis for the 4th time, and this bland stage gets worse with each playthrough. I'm so tired of it. I beat all the gun soldiers, and then I played Digital Circuit, which is basically Mad Matrix again. It took me an absurd amount of time to complete, and had the exact same flaws. We're now in Cryptic Castle, and I need to light these torches for the Dark Mission. But I got lost again, making this another stage that took forever. And it looks horrible. The Dark Mission was about helping Dr. Eggman, so I was surprised when I beat the level, and Eggman fought me anyway. I just helped you, idiot. In this path, Shadow works for Black Doom. I've never liked this idea, because Shadow isn't a bad person. I know he tried to destroy the world in SA2, but he had fake memories there. Inherently, I've always viewed him as someone with trauma who wants to do the right thing. In Heroes, as soon as he woke up, he saved Rouge from Omega. And at the end, he helped defeat Metal Sonic. I don't buy that he would ever side with an alien, literally named Black Doom. Shadow makes it to Central City, home of the famous DC Comics character, The Flash. It's also home to the worst level in the game, and maybe the entire series up to this point. In the Dark Mission, you're supposed to detonate these giant bombs, while in the Hero Mission, Knuckles wants you to defuse these smaller bombs before the whole city blows up when the timer hits 0. Can't Black Doom just bide his time until the smaller bombs go off? Am I the only one who thinks these two missions make no sense together? Did anyone think about this during development? Central City is poorly designed. It's very wide open, and like Lost Impact, everything looks the same, so the level feels like a maze. There's a ton of different routes, and some of them are hidden behind these black walls that are very easy to miss. And you're on a timer, so I had to restart multiple times. When I finally figured out where all the giant bombs were, I got an easy A rank and beat the stage in 4 minutes. But in total, I spent 35 minutes here, and I was incredibly upset. I never ever want to play this level again. I guess it is fitting that Central City is so dreadful, since it's based on Westopolis. When I go to hell for running over those orphans, I think my punishment is going to be in Westopolis. Oh, my lawyer just told me that when I said I ran over orphans, I meant I did that in Minecraft. Yeah, totally. Wait, does anyone even care that I did that? Who's gonna notice? Their parents? I'm losing my mind. In the climax of this route, Black Doom uses the Eclipse Cannon to destroy the White House, but like a modern superhero film, everyone was evacuated in time. Now Shadow heads to the gun fortress to beat up the president, I guess. Finally, we have another level I genuinely enjoyed. You get loads of ammo to fight the gun enemies, and it's fun. Unfortunately, I can't say the same thing for the battle against Sonic and Diablon. It made me angry because it's so slow with the mech's invulnerability and how little ammo you get. The worst thing is the homing attack just did not cooperate with me. I hate when that happens. This game is already so long that I could not deal with this fight. It sucked. At least the story is kinda coherent. Shadow wants to destroy the planet because he's evil. Okay, at least that tracks to doing all the dark missions. It's better than this nonsense. I don't know how much more of this I can take. You know what? Let's just get all the story stuff out of the way. What I like about this run is Black Doom shows Shadow Maria on the Ark so I can better understand why Shadow works for him and why he vows revenge against humanity during the final battle. For this playthrough, I replayed all of the neutral pathway up until Prison Island, where I did the Dark mission. This took me to the Doom, which is basically a copy of Lost Impact, but thankfully, I only had to reach the goal ring this time. The next stage, Airfleet, is like on Fortress, so I kinda liked it. Especially the Dark mission I did later, where you need to destroy the President's jet before it leaves the hangar. The final stage, Black Comet, is a duplicate of Final Haunt, therefore it sucked. After defeating Sonic again, Shadow pledges that he works for Black Doom, and it ends. Thank God. This game. That was awful. But here's the thing. That's only half of the endings. To fully beat the game, I need to obtain the other half. I knew this was coming, so I purposely routed the first 5 runs to ensure that I played every level in the game. Most of them sucked, but at least I saw everything, including all the cutscenes, except for the endings. And now, I have to do it all again. I hate my life. There's very little to say about the next 5 runs. I was not enjoying Shadow of 5, so to beat it as quickly and painlessly as possible, here's what I did. I played the neutral missions in the beginning levels, and then near the end, I started playing the hero and dark missions to get all the endings. I did this because the neutral missions are much faster, and I wanted to avoid the worst levels, such as Digital Circuit or Lost Impact. However, while stages like Prison Island and Glyphic Canyon are better, playing them over and over again was extremely repetitive. But I would rather do that than replay stages I don't like, or have to play more hero and dark missions where I need to search for enemies to kill. At least I had podcasts and YouTube videos to help with the boredom, but it is still insane they designed the game this way. No matter what you do, you have to play Westopolis 10 times if you want all the endings in Shadow the Hedgehog. It's horrendous. Let's take a break from the main story to discuss the other modes. If you A-rank every single mission in this game, which actually isn't that hard by the way, because they're pretty generous, you can play Expert mode. The stages are harder, and you have to play all of them, but at least the objective most of the time is just reach the goal ring. I don't like Shadow of 5, and I know desire to play more of it, but I've heard some people love this mode, so maybe I'm missing something. But I seriously doubt it. Other than that, there is technically a multiplayer mode. There's just 3 maps, and the only thing you could do is run around and fight your friend. But hey, at least we got everyone's favorite Sonic characters. There's Shadow, Pink Android Shadow, and my personal favorite, Blue Android Shadow. Why did they even put this in the game? It's abysmal. Returning to the other 5 playthroughs, the last one I did was another pure neutral run that ended in the dark mission at Lava Shelter. It felt really nice beating the game, and seeing this confusing ending where Shadow vows that as an android, he'll be stronger than the original, and ends it off with a karate chop. At least we got to see different versions of Shadow in this game, and you can decide for yourself what's canon and... Wait. No. There's a last story? And it has an ending that's canon to the rest of the series? What was the point of all this then? Why did I have to beat the game 10 times and see these weird endings that didn't even happen? Who thought any of this was a good idea? How does Shadow of 5 keep getting worse?
Nothing makes sense.
In the last story, Black Doom reveals that he's evil and plans to take over the world. Shadow wants to stop him, but first we have to go through the last way. It plays exactly like Final Haunt and the Black Comet. Yes, they really recycled the same stage for a 3rd time. Oh man, please just let it end. Shadow tries to confront Space Dad, but he uses their shared blood to control Shadow. The Chaotix meanwhile discover that Professor Gerald created the Eclipse Cannon to one day destroy the Black Comet when Black Doom returned to Earth. This gives Shadow the strength to resist, and he goes super for the last fight. The battle is pretty frustrating, since Devil Doom's hurtbox is constantly moving, and the auto-aim isn't great. The most notable thing to mention is if you stay alive for 8 minutes, Eggman tells Shadow that he's the original, not a robot. I guess he was just trolling in the neutral hero campaign. I don't think this should have been an Easter egg. It's too important to Shadow as a character in my opinion. Also, couldn't Shadow test this by giving himself a paper cut? Whatever, Black Doom dies, and Shadow uses Chaos Control so the Eclipse Cannon can obliterate the Black Comet. The President has some horrible dialogue where he makes Professor Gerald out to be a misunderstood hero, and we're supposed to ignore that he tried to destroy the planet before the Black Arms came. He recorded his message before Maria died, and he went insane. I don't think this is a character worth celebrating. Shadow says goodbye to his past and walks away. I don't really understand this arc because I have no clue what technically happened in the story, but at least Shadow the Hedgehog is finally over. When I play these games for my videos, I'm usually able to beat them pretty quickly. But I was so exhausted with this game that I was taking frequent breaks because I didn't want to play it. It took me a full week to get all the endings. For reference, when I covered another game I disliked, Mega Man X7, I could play the whole thing in a single sitting. Shadow the Hedgehog was miserable. Almost nothing about it works. The most glaring issue is the incredibly repetitive and boring gameplay. In a fast-paced platformer focused on the coolest character in the series, that should not be possible. Even aspects other Sonic games always excel at, like the soundtrack and visuals, are underwhelming or outright bad here. It's a shame Shadow turned out so poorly because there was a lot of potential. Thankfully, in the 20 years since its release, some of it's been realized. There's a mod out there called Shadow Reloaded that fixes some of the problems. I didn't play much of it, but it's cool that it exists. And last year, we got the game Shadow Generations, which I don't think anyone saw coming. It brought back Black Doom and levels from this era of the series. It's a great experience that feels true to the character without being cringy or boring. I'm really happy they made it. As for Shadow of 5, this game sucks. It's such a product of its time. At no other point besides the mid-2000s would this strange premise have been greenlit. I can appreciate it for doing something different and being a more polished experience than its predecessor. But playing it 20 years later was so rough. Shadow the Hedgehog is still awful. Believe it or not, things only get crazier from here. I'll see you next time for the end of this retrospective.
Perfect.